Okay, we're going to call the Public Safety Committee hearing together. It's June the 8th. It's about 1:04. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Howard.
Here.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderman Page.
Present.
Chairman Pacoro.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Okay. First off, before we even do the approval of the minutes, I want to welcome the newest member, which would be Alderwoman Sharon Tyus. She's also, and I see we have Alderwoman Boyd here now. She's also been made the vice chairman, and me and Sharon have been known to fight and bicker, and I certainly welcome that, even on this committee. She's very knowledgeable and knows a lot of the rules. So so some people might say, well, Joe, why Sharon? You know what? She's smart. She's got more time on than anybody. And I think she'll be a great vice chair. And don't be surprised if we fight in some of the meetings. So having said that, welcome to our committee. And at this point, I'd like to seek the approval of the minutes from the Thursday, May 12th meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of Thursday, May 12th, 2022.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
I have to vote present. I wasn't here.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman.
I'm
Alderwoman,
sorry.
that's fine. I'll come back to you, Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderman Page.
Aye.
Chairman Pacoro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
There she goes.
Alderman Bosley. Alderman Oldenburg. 6 aye votes and 1 voted present.
Okay, and then and correct me if I'm wrong, but Alderwoman Tyus is vice chair, and I think I don't know when you refer to her, call to her, I think you call vice chairman. I think we did in the past. That's the only reason. I'm not sure. But.
I haven't, but I will do it moving forward.
Okay, just to recognize it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the body cam for the jailers. That came to me. Heather, are you with us, Heather Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. So she originally brought this to me. I will say that I did meet with Dave Sweeney and someone from the camera company that currently is with the police, that has the police cameras. And I just say that for transparency. I don't know how that works, if it has to go out for a separate bid or if it would be included with what we already have, which is the ones, this is the company that currently has body cameras for the police. So Heather, if you can give us just kind of a background, your thoughts on what you're looking for and why, and hopefully we can get something moved through here.
Well, thank you, sir. So the idea came from the current policy that's in place with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. Their patrol officers are currently outfitted with body-worn cameras. We went through the process before I arrived, Department of Public Safety, and RFP with that utility was selected as the company for the body worn cameras. That has been in place since 2020. There's a written policy that's in place. What we were seeking to do was to expand the body worn camera program to the Department of Corrections. The Commissioner of Corrections is on board with it. We know that there are other steps that we have to take. We are in the process of writing the policy for that as well. If this is approved and we receive the quote, it's from the same company, of course, from Mark Osborne. I believe he's on the line today. And with that, he broke down the quote, and I provided that for the chair, you, sir, and the vice chair as well, Alderwoman Tyus, about the breakdown of the costs for it. It's a 5-year contract. That's currently the contract that's in place. And the reason that we want to have body worn cameras there is for transparency and accountability. It also allows us to use the body worn cameras as a training tool to retrain staff. And, you know, it's most definitely an accountability measure, similar to how we have it within the police department. And Mr. Osborne can kind of break down more the logistics of it and what we're seeking to do, if it's approved.
No, and that's fine. Can you share your screen, since I don't have it in front of me, with the cost so everyone can see it? I'm certainly in favor of this. I think it's a good idea. How we go about, or how we, if you extend the contract and the companies there, or if it goes out for another RFP, that's however it is. But I don't have it in front of me. Can you share?
Yes, I have it. I can share my screen with you.
Okay, and this will give us a breakdown.
I'm not sure if it's showing. It's saying that I'm sharing it, but I'm not sure if you can see it.
I can see it. It's showing that it, oops. It's
First
showing
page.
that-
Yeah, you need to scroll to the second page.
There
you go.
And so here's the breakdown here.
Yeah.
So initially, for the first year, the cost is $317,000, and then it's broken down by year 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's how the current contract is for the police department. With this, there's unlimited data with it, so it's really important for us to be able to have this footage stored and have access to the cloud with this data like we have with the police department. So the police department currently has 4 full-time staff that actually monitor the body-worn footage. If there's an incident and we need to review it, if there's a complaint against an officer, or there's a complaint, or not a complaint, if we want to look at it and use it as a training tool, we have 4 officers that are assigned, meaning there's a commander, there's a sergeant, and there are 2 full-time staff that are assigned to that section. And so what we would utilize are 2 correction staff to train them, the training, all of that. And Mark Osborne can explain a little bit more. He was here, they were here before, we were hired in Department of Public Safety last year, so they have more on it. There is 1 access point. The police department has several, but here we only need 1 access point, and it would be in the Department of CJC. 1 location. We're in contact with IT. We would have 1 data access point, and that access point is included in the cost, similar to like it is with the police department.
And one of the things when I did meet with them, I asked them, since they're 2 years into the other contract, what if we jumped in? Can it be done a lot cheaper of a startup cost? And Heather, you don't have to share your screen now, but if Mark, you had thought maybe, I know, whatever, it was somewhat negotiable. So if we jumped in and did the 3 years, or Heather, is that just a bad idea for you guys, or? That was just one of the thoughts I had asked him about when we were there.
And from our end, we're amendable to whatever you guys see is best.
I was thinking of how we could be cheap. That's part of my nature. And Mark, you had said that you thought we can get in a lot cheaper if we do the
Well,
3 years versus start.
cheaper is not the correct term. It's the contract that, depending on how you want to do it, will still be the same number. We're just talking about the initial cost. We can tell that onto the back end. We can make it more of a equal annual style payments. There's lots of things we can do with the numbers to help the committee on a budget issue to facilitate this. So we can get creative, whatever you guys need us to work around. The company does like to use blend and extend contracts. So basically they could blend, if there's 4 years remaining on your current contract, we would blend the 5-year cost over that time and extend out your current contract with the city police department and make it coterminous. And we can get some numbers moving down the road if we're selected for this, and give you an idea of just a different way to do that, to just combine everything all into one payment so you're not making multiple payments at different times too. So there's just some things we can do and work around the numbers, and we're willing to do whatever we need to do to make sure this happens and that you guys can afford to fit it into your budget.
Okay, so Heather, excuse me. I'm sorry. Heather, if you could work with him, it seems like we can get a little bit better of a price going in, which, finding the money, I still believe, I understand it's an ongoing cost, but I still believe we should be able to use part of the COVID money to get this started. I agree. I think it's important. I think it's important for the safety of the jailers and of the people there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the vice chairman and go down and then open it up for questions. I also know that I have the meeting that I have to go to. So after, I'd say about 2 or 2:15, then the vice chairman's going to take over for me. And we also have the personnel director, the interim personnel, and that would be next. So let me start with the vice chairman and we'll go down the list. Questions for any of the above on the cameras?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, what is involved in the first year? I guess it would be to Mr. Osborne, that is the startup cost is significantly more. What's involved in that for the startup?
So the typical first year is going to be all the hardware, all the installation, and then all of the training, and then a continuation throughout that year of support 24/7, 365, and then cloud storage, of course. So our people will physically come to St. Louis. They will do the installations, just like we did with the police department. We will do training sessions, as many as they need. If you need 25 different training sessions for each shift to make things work for people, our trainers will be there to make sure all that happens. And so part of that upfront cost is travel expenses and lodging and things like that to make sure all this goes smoothly. Some of the other upfront costs are uniform. So if you remember or don't know about our police department equipment that we deployed with the police department, integrated in the uniform is how our camera is different from other companies. We own the patent for that, so our cameras never fall off. They never get knocked off. We are ensuring that camera footage will be recorded when activated. So I've got my vest here just to show you a quick display. So this is what the typical integrated uniform system looks like. It's just about the size of a quarter is all you see. It's a small camera size opening. So there's nothing for any inmate to grab onto. All of our camera and devices are all behind the uniform. So part of the purchase price comes with $200 credit for uniforms, whether that be a vest carrier style or integrating into the button-up style shirts, tack gear, whatever it might be. You get a $200 credit for uniforms. And then we do 5 retrofits of existing uniforms that they already have to put the secured system into that.
Okay, and so this is me, the wife. How do you clean those things?
It is typical washer. You would take out the device. There's some logistical stuff there. We would talk about the device leaving the actual facility versus staying there and just charging there. And then the corrections folks can just pick them up and assign them to themselves on shift versus letting them leave like we would with the police department. But as far as the uniform, once you remove the holster and the device, you can just put it in the washing machine and just wash it with regular clothes.
And is it your recommendation that you do it one way or other? Is it your recommendation that you leave it there and maybe have the people clean them or wash them? Or does it not make a difference if they are taken home?
The uniforms can go home with them. That's not going to be any issue. It's going to be totally policy based on your end on the devices, whether you want them to leave. Because it is a deactivated cell phone. You're not making phone calls on it. You're not getting on Facebook. There's no apps or anything. We lock the phone down to just our software. But that's how we do a lot of our automation for the police side of it with all of our holster activation and different things that we do to ensure that we have camera footage 99% of the time during an incident. So the uniform itself can come and go. They can take their normal clothing home. They can take the vest home and wash them as need be.
And then the person wearing them activates it, the camera?
Yeah. Yes. So in the jail setting, it's a little bit different scenario. You don't have CAD activation, things like that, but you still do automated recording. So if a jailer gets involved in a fight or they go down in a prone position, our camera will start automatically recording. If tasers are used and they draw a taser, the holster activation will start that camera recording. So we do still have a lot of automation that will apply inside the corrections facility. It's just a little more limited just because you don't have all the functions and features that you would in the patrol side of it.
Okay, and do they have the ability to turn it off?
Yes, we never turn off a video in any scenario for any agency. That is a one-on-one basis for the officer, deputy, trooper to make that decision when to turn it off. That way they are following policy and they can always articulate themselves why a video turned off. We don't want to get in the business of having a deputy or corrections officer saying, hey, well, the company just turned it off. That isn't our place. We can activate and turn it on for you. Based on policies and procedures, we never want to shut it off. We leave that up to the individual.
My last question, I thought I heard you say something about that you could maybe do a sliding scale, or you could, if we were going to do a 4-year or 5-year contract, that you could spread the cost out so it wasn't so much upfront cost. Is that what you said, or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, we can work with you depending on what the council finds budget funding. When we talked before, there was some ARP funds available, I guess, or looking at ARP funds for doing that. So, if that front number needs to come down to 250 and then tail in and spread the remaining balance out on the remainder years, our company has done that previously to help clients numerous times. So that's not going to be an issue.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's all my questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move down the list. Alderwoman Carol Howard.
The only thing I have question wise, and it's on those vests, when you're talking about the vests, are they tactical? Without the tactical vests or is that up to the consumer how they use it?
Yeah, the consumer or client can choose the style of vest they want. They make very just, if you think of your typical, I call it a Class A police uniform. It's got the metal buttons that go down it. It's very professional for an event of significant. Yeah, so we can do that. We can do a tactical flat. We can do vests that look like those. We can do the ones with the Molly gear that look like military. We can retrofit anything, and we can provide any uniform that's sold on the market as an option for you as well.
Okay. So are we talking about getting a camera for each? And this might be a question for Ms. Taylor. For each corrections officer,
So ma'am, we would have per shift, anyone that's working, it would be on shift. If you're working the 7 to 3, then 3 to 11, then 11 and on, each person on shift would have a body worn camera. The body worn cameras would be stored in one centralized location inside of CJC so that we wouldn't have them taking them home. The police department takes theirs home, but we believe it's better suited to have them in-house because the downloads, one centralized location where you download everything, one access point, it's just easier that way, we believe, from our experience with PD.
Will there be a technical person added to the staff at the facilities to maintain these and make sure they're ready to go, or?
Yes, that's part of the, in there, the 2 positions that are going to be dedicated. We are going to, when they come in and when the training starts, we're going to dedicate 2 people specifically to be trained and to be the points of contact, and also the administrators. They will have access, they'll be trained as well. That means the corrections commissioner, the deputy commissioner of corrections, and any other supporting staff, so that we have a well-balanced crew of people who are going to be trained in it. But the 2 main correction staff, they will receive the bulk of the training for this, for the data, to understand how to download and to understand the system.
Okay, and then the final question is, in a penal institution, is there any privacy with these, or is there any consideration for that? And I don't know what the legal stance is on that, so maybe I don't know who could answer that better.
So Georgia Department of Corrections, they have a policy. We are reviewing that policy. Mark sent that over to us, and we will have to have the city councilors involved in reviewing how that privacy should look, because there is an expectation of privacy there as well. And those are the things that we're working on. Since we have a little time, those are the things that are important that we're working on as well for both sides with privacy.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd, I saw you here. Any questions? Oh, you know what? Let me back up. Alderwoman Kara Spencer, I see you just joined us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I
Working
think
on this, it sounds like we're.
I think you're freezing up there.
I have no questions. I was just wanting to thank and commend the department for working on this issue and thinking through all the difficult questions involved. And I have no questions at this time, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the
Also,
connection issues.
no, you're fine. So Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
No, sir, Mr. Chair. The Vice Chair asked all the questions as usual.
That's why I picked it. Let's see. Alderman Brandon Bosley, have you joined us? I don't see him. Alderman Tom Oldenburg. And I don't see him. Alderman Brett Ryan, I did see you. So you're
Thank
here.
you, Chairman. So this, what we're talking about is 150 cameras total. That's what these numbers are. So roughly, just rough numbers, how many guards would be on at any given time?
So that varies with overtime, just depending. So during the course of the day, what I can tell you, there are 100 correction staff that work in the course of the day. I believe it's broken down per 33, somewhere around there and over per shift. I don't want to give the exact numbers.
Sure.
But that shift is, we would have staff that would be outfitted with the body worn cameras, over 33 people per shift.
Okay, so there's more than enough to ensure that there's time to adequately charge them and things of that nature.
Yes, and the additional ones are, we do also contract with outside vendors that come in and provide added protection there. So we would have anyone that interacts with our pretrial detainees, they would have to wear a body worn camera. And so that's down the line process and getting with the contract and adding language that's going to be critical, because we want everyone, if this is approved, whoever comes in there to have a body worn camera, and they would remain in-house. So, yeah.
And do we know the lifespan of these cameras just on average?
They hold up pretty good, but I'll have Mark explain that.
So part of our service, we're a SaaS business service. So we're selling you software as a service. So we will maintain all this equipment at any time it breaks, anytime a battery swells, any sort of damage from a fight that may occur to a lens. We maintain that, we fix it, we do it all for free. You'll have a supply there in the facility in case something happens on a late shift, but otherwise we'll overnight it to get it to you expressed. But it is maintained and constantly supported, so you don't have to worry about warranties or anything like that. You'll always have the newest, latest, greatest model available.
Great. And then Ms. Taylor, have you had discussions just with kind of the rank and file on this? And if this is something that they're going to push back against, is this something that they're for?
So the
where do they
discussions,
end up there?
yes, sir. So the discussions would be had with the Commissioner of Corrections. I believe they're going through their collective bargaining agreement process right now, possibly, and I may be wrong on that. But those conversations would be had by the commissioner, deputy, and with, staff. And I'm not involved in those.
Okay, but this isn't something that that the corrections officers have been specifically asking for or advocating against either way?
I don't know. It's an accountability measure, just, similar to the police department. I don't think from being an officer there that officers were too thrilled about having them or not having them. It had to be an executive decision for accountability and for the safety of citizens and the officers. It's just another layer of accountability. And it's, we're looking at it from that standpoint as well. But we have no problem with having input in it with what we're doing in the program.
No, I agree with you. I think it's an important step in transparency. I was just trying to figure out if we could anticipate pushback or if this is something that they've been asking for because they want it. Because I know oftentimes, at least with the police department, these body worn cameras vindicate the officer after an interaction rather than, I know in the media we see oftentimes that, we see all these various uses of force with the body cameras. And so I think there's some folks who think, the body cameras are out to get people. But I think the data has shown overwhelmingly that they support officers' version of events. So I'm supportive of this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir, it does.
So, Alderman Shameen Clark Hubbard
No questions, thank you.
and Alderman James Page.
Just one question. I assume that this technology will be deployed at both the CJC Annex on Hall Street and at the CJC downtown on Tucker. Should you have detainees and staff at the CJC Annex, I assume this will apply to both facilities.
So right now, it's specific to CJC, but we would like for it to apply to both facilities in case we have a disturbance and we have to move a large amount of staff to another location. That would require additional access point. I'm pretty certain of that. But right now, we're just anticipating CJC. That's something that would be, Dr. Isom's decision going forward with if we're going to expand it out to CJC Annex.
Well, that's kind of what led to my question, because earlier in the conversation, I heard the emphasis on one single access point when we do have two facilities, one that is kind of let's just say, not used as much, and then one primary facility. So I was just concerned how that was going to work. The other questions, such as cost, such as functionality, I think those have been pretty well answered by my colleagues earlier. So I'm good, and I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so here's so I'm probably going to also defer a second here to the vice chair, but Heather, I am perfectly willing to sponsor an ordinance to get this done. Gonna need your help. Gonna need advice as we move along. What I'm asking the vice chair, I mean, this was a discussion, but my guess would be we could vote this out, or at least recommend. I guess we can't really vote it out. We could recommend that the public safety department proceed with looking into the costs and possibility. Would that be the best way to send this, or just we've heard it and they got my commitment? What would be your thoughts, Vice Chair?
Well, my thoughts are we're hearing all the information about it right now. So my next step would be to do either a board bill or resolution, most likely a board bill, the sooner the better. And if we are expedient enough, we're doing the budget right now. So maybe we could find some place to wiggle it in. I want to be your co-sponsor, that we could wiggle it in and maybe have ENA add this to it. So it would be done sooner than later.
Heather, can you help the vice chairman actually help put this together? I don't mind being the sponsor or the co-sponsor, whatever the vice chair would like to do. If you guys could put something together and make sure and talk to the legal department to see if we could extend what we already have, or does it have to go back out for a bid? And also to talk to these guys, if we're extending theirs, that we get a lower upfront cost. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yes, sir, it does. And I'll work on that this week as well, to come up to answer some of those questions. I think we can just add this onto the current contract, but I will talk to the comptroller's office for more clarification.
If you could put something together and get it to the vice chair woman, then I am perfectly happy to be the sponsor or the co-sponsor. I think she'd be pretty good at the legal part of it. She knows something about the law. We might.
Mr. Chairman, what I want to also say is, even if we don't have the board bill passed, if we could let the members of the ENA know, then maybe, they could add a little bit more into the budget for this, because I think that this is something important, especially with the problems we've been having at CJC. So anything we can get done sooner than later would be better for not only public safety there, but just the public's perception of what's going on downtown. And so they can add money, in the miscellaneous or whatever, so that it would already be there. So when if we don't pass this board bill before we have to send the final budget, then at least we'd have that money sitting there to work with. And they may have some wiggle room already in their budget. I'm not on Ways and Means, so I don't know.
Well, Heather, what I would suggest, if you're talking to ENA, Heather, they could add it out of the reserves. We have plenty of reserves, and there's no reason, given this amount, that, to send back. Now, keep in mind, we're doing this pretty fast, and this budget's got to bounce back and forth. So if they could even possibly do this tomorrow before the Ways and Means meeting, we would ask that they add say $300,000 out of the reserves. It'll be a whole different line item to allow for this if it's passed. And if it doesn't happen, it can always go back to reserves. But the one place you can find the money, I don't think it's an issue, is it could be done in a way that it comes from the reserves, and there's plenty of reserves. So if that's everything I guess, Heather, you'll get back with us as soon as possible, please. And if you can get some sort of whatever, talk to Paul Payne is really who, you know, if I need, well, who's going to do it. And if I need to be the one who sponsors because we're supposed to write what we want. If it has to be in my name, Paul could talk to me. I would ask that $300,000 be taken from the reserves, added to this year's budget for the potential body cameras for the corrections officers. Okay. And so the camera people can leave. We're going to go to the next step. I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes. And Heather, you're welcome to stay if you like. We're going to be talking to the personnel people next.
Thank you.
So, and thank you, Heather. We're giving you your assignment of the day. And that could be in my name. Tell Paul that could be, he'll put it in the proper format. And it could be taken care of that way. So interim director, John Moten, and we also have Brian Beckelman there with him. And I'm going to just ask a few questions and I'm going to jump off and I'm going to leave it to the co-chair and anybody else that has questions. And my questions primarily have to do with, you know, the backlog, I guess, you know, people not getting, you know, people are telling me we apply, but we're not getting put in, even though we feel that there's qualified people. One of the things that the fire department guys are calling me because they're waiting for, you know, I guess to move to their promotions. Nothing's going on. You know, I guess, you know, because we can't use political influence and say, you better do this or you better do that, or you need to do this. But we certainly can ask for accountability. And that's what we're asking for. Why the big holdup? Why aren't we getting people moving along? Why, you know, one of the things I heard, maybe rumor or not, but they extended even for the fire department where guys can actually come back, even if they've been out for 5 years, that they can come back and work. And if that's so, then will they be collecting their pension and, you know, their pay? So these are all questions, and if you can just work through them. And at this point, I'm going to listen, and hopefully you can answer some of my questions. I'm going to mute myself. I'll be hanging around till about 2, but the vice chairman will be taking over now.
Mr. Chairman, as I understand your question, you're asking about vacancies in general and people being employed. And the second thing, it would be retirees returning to work. Is that correct, sir?
Retirees returning to work. And it used to be 2 years. Now it's unlimited. So say somebody's been out 5 years, even like a fireman. And the fire was one of the ones that asked me. So if you bring back a fireman that's been retired for 5 or 6 years, is he going to collect his check and his pension? And then how does that affect the pension system? That's kind of the question. And if it's overcomplicated, you can think about it and always get back with an answer. But those are kind of the two questions of where we're at.
You have an answer?
And Madam Chair, I am going to mute myself and listen.
Sure.
You are now. You're going to chair, and at 2 o'clock, I'm going to jump off.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'll ask Brian Beckelman, my deputy, to respond to that, since some of these issues came up before my arrival. So, Mr. Beckelman, if that's okay with you.
Oh, no, I have a lot of respect for him. I thought he was going to be the replacement by our charter, but I was wrong, I guess. But, you know, I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. But Brian, yeah, go ahead. And Alderwoman Tyus, you're now chairing this. I am now, I'm I'm now, whatever I am, I'm back here somewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beckelman, if you would proceed, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable men and women of the board. And I'm very touched by your comments, Alderman Vaccaro, truly, thank you. To try and answer the questions, yes, it is correct. There was a time when reemployment rights, that is, if you resign or retire in good standing from the city civil service, if you wish to come back, you had to file for reemployment within the last 2 years. That was changed, I want to say before COVID. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact dates. The philosophy behind the change, as I understand it, from past leadership was an acknowledgement that we were having such a hard time filling civil service positions, and that if we had retirees or people who resigned in good standing more than 2 years ago willing to come back, then we need to do everything we can to fill these vacancies. And that's why the process or procedure was changed to allow people to come back. Regarding the situation with the firefighters, the fire commissioner, what the process is, you contact the Department of Personnel. You request your paperwork for reemployment rights. You, the former employee, fill out the paperwork, return it to the DOP. The staff here review your record and verify you resigned or retired in good standing. If you were fired or dismissed for cause, you're not eligible for reemployment rights. So once we verify that, yes, you are who you are, you left in good standing, you're eligible to come back, you are placed on a reemployment list, for want of a better word, without getting too technical. The appointing authority would submit a requisition, and once we got that requisition, we would certify the reemployment candidate off the list. That's just generally speaking. With firefighters, it's a little different. We do testing and establish eligible list for probationary fire privates. For a firefighter that retired or resigned in good standing, the fire commissioner would submit a requisition for fire private, and any fire private on the reemployment list would be certified to the fire commissioner, at which point they would be hired. Would anyone like to ask any questions about?
Just a minute. That's my line you're doing there. Okay. Okay. First thing I need to ask you, just that policy, that procedure you just said, do you have that in writing that you could share with the committee?
Reemployment, I don't believe is addressed in one particular Department of Personnel Administrative Regulation. It's kind of here and there. It's mentioned in a rule and the charter at one point, but I can collect the language and send it to you.
Well, I was going to say, could you send it to us? Because I think that would help if people wanted to talk to other people who wanted to do reemployment, if we had it in writing. And you could either send it to all the members or send it to our clerk, Terry Kennedy, to disperse to all of us.
Will do.
Okay, the second thing I wanted to ask you about, you said the preemptive payment right, the reemployment was changed. Was that a civil service rule, or was it just a rule within personnel? How was it changed?
I believe it was changed at the discretion of the former director. A civil service rule change would have to go before the Civil Service Commission.
Correct.
My understanding is the director of personnel prepares rules and recommendations on the rules for the commission, but the commission is the entity that has the authority to vote yes or no on changing the rules.
Right. And so you're saying, but I want to understand this. Are you saying that the director Frank presented it to civil service and they changed it, or he just did an in-house change from the director's desk?
It was an in-house change from the director's desk.
Okay. And is that in writing any place?
I need to, I'm sorry, I need to research it. I was working here at the time, of course, and I remember the discussions when it happened. But again, most of the in-house changes are done through a change of Department of Personnel Administrative Regulations.
Right.
Those
I'm familiar.
Right, okay.
Right.
But I will look for that for you, and I will check with my staff because I know between us working together as a group, we can get you definitive answers.
Okay, so the lucky me, I used to be the chair of public employees a few times back, and Alderwoman Howard has also been the chair of public employees a few times back. So we got a little initiation to some of the administrative regs or civil service rules. Okay, I will then go to Mr. Moten. Did you have anything you wanted to add before I go to the committee to see if they have questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I have a question. Did you used to be my neighbor? There,
I don't think so.
you didn't live on Terry or any
No,
place?
ma'am, I did not.
Okay, do you have a son, maybe?
I have a son, but I don't think he was your neighbor. My son has lived out of state most of his adult life and just returned to the area maybe a month or so ago.
Okay, there was some John Moten that lived in the area, so I just thought that might be you.
Oh, I
All
know
right.
the gentleman you're referring to. His name is John C. Moten. He worked for Alvey Conveyor.
Okay.
He's a member of All Saints Episcopal. I
Yes.
knew him. We happen to be neighbors, but it was we lived in University City, not far from each other, and we had the mailman totally confused.
Yes, I understand. We have my husband's parents and grandparents live in the area. And his last name is Miller. So we get everybody's mail. So I do understand that. Okay, I'm sorry, back to keep on track. Alderwoman Howard, do you have any questions for either of these gentlemen?
I guess my question pertains to what is the current level of vacancies we have now? Do you have a number of just throughout the city?
The number of vacancies throughout the city would be about 1,250.
Whoa. And so how many employees do we have currently?
We currently have about 5,000 in round numbers.
So we're about 20% short on employees.
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's across the board, fire, police.
That is that's the total personnel count, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And then in regard to negotiations, are you continuing to negotiate with the different entities that negotiate for?
Yes, we have met with all of the union groups at least once, if not multiple times, as you saw in the email I sent you, Alderman Howard. And my secretary is working as we speak to try to arrange meetings with the same groups so we can get to our second, third, or fourth meeting. And some of the groups we've met with as many as 3 times.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that. And I really would hope that you listen to them and be understanding of their needs.
Well, what we've done, Alderman Howard, is we've had very respectful meetings on both sides. And we've listened and been try our best to be responsive to all of their questions or comments. And so we will try to continue that cooperative spirit. We have not had a meeting where that has turned out badly with any of the groups that we've talked to.
And I just think that, you know, in light of the fact that we're 20% down on employees, that we need to retain what we have and try to work with them the best we can. And I encourage, you know, and on behalf of them, I think that's a good idea to continue the negotiations and let them be heard.
Well, I have sent a note to all of the bargaining units and via email, if not letter, and told them all that we will continue to bargain in good faith, and we intend to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I hope that we can hire. And one more question. What seems to be the sticking point with hiring people? Is it salary, residency, or is it all of the above? Do we know exactly?
A big component is salary. Another component is certainly residency, but a big component is salary. Many of our salaries are not very competitive, Alderman Howard. We have a very, very difficult time matching the salaries that many have offered because many of our lower level positions are paid the same as some of the fast food places, slightly above that. And so it makes it very difficult to get people in, considering the cost of gasoline, inflation, and the cost of childcare. So we're facing uphill battle with that.
Can you tell me, do all of our positions, all of the people that are employed for the city of St. Louis, do they all make $15 an hour?
As far as everything I've seen, they make at least $15 an hour or more.
Okay.
Our challenge has been when we get above that threshold and we get into the more competitive positions, such as work at the airport and other specialized positions such as accountants, attorneys, and so on. We're not very competitive compared to the private sector.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Mr. Beckelman had a comment he wanted to add, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Just a moment ago, one of our HR managers came in and provided the following information. So reemployment lists are covered by Civil Service Rule 6, Section 15B. And it looks like that had to go before the commission and be amended. So it was in the rule originally that the reemployment rights were, or list were good for 2 years. And then that was amended. And I want to say June of 19, when we amended the rules to put the police division under our discipline policy under Administrative Reg 117, but I've got my staff checking on that now. I just wanted to let you know that while that was going on, we kind of tracked it down and we're working right now to get that information to you as requested.
And I always love, I love the verbal information. I love the written follow-up much better, okay?
Absolutely.
That way I don't have it wrong. And that way you could always send it to our clerk and then he'll send it to the committee, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was intended, Alderman Tyus, merely as.
Let me stop you here. Many years ago, when I got elected in 1991, I refused to be called alderman. And then after 3 or 4 years, I got it changed so women can be called what they wanted to, alderman, some like that, and some like alderwoman. I like alderwoman, okay?
My apology, Alderwoman.
No problem.
My apology.
But I didn't change it so everybody had to be that. I just wanted everybody to be able to be called what they wanted to be. So for me, it's alderwoman.
I will remember that, and thank you.
Okay, but you were making a point, but I never let anybody get away with that. It never ever answered to it. And I would always say, when they would say alderman, I would say Alderwoman Tyus is here. So just want to let you know that.
Well, Alderwoman Tyus, all I was going to say was that the information we gave you verbally was just verbal information only, but we will follow up with written information as you requested.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, the next person is Alderwoman Kara Spencer. Alderwoman Spencer, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Pamela Boyd, who judges me so harshly that I'm scared to ask questions now. I had at least 10 more questions I could have asked, but I
know. I love it. She's always teaching. Just always remember, Mr. Moten, she is a teacher. The question I have, a couple of questions. One question is, because I heard you all say in the beginning of your presentation that the challenge of getting people hired. And so has your process improved in regards to how the application, because I know this generation we have now, everybody is saying on the internet. So has it changed where people can do personal, do paper, and do online? How long does it take for the turnaround? And I think when I met with you, Mr. Moten, I told you that was a concern, because what I keep hearing and what the chair has said before he had left, people constantly complain, either when they put the application in, they're not hearing, or it's no follow-up. And so you did say that you were working on it, and I didn't know if you all had got that corrected.
Well, to answer your question in part, and I'll defer the rest to Mr. Beckelman, I have issued a directive that all of our managers are to review all of our administrative regulations so that we can bring them up to date to the current times, because many of them were written before the internet and modern times, as you mentioned, where people have other means of communicating. So I issued that directive earlier this week that we will do that in response to my conversation with you. And so, Mr. Beckelman, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Director. Good afternoon, Alderwoman Boyd. It's nice to see you. So right now, we're trying to make the process go as expediently as possible. We are doing a format where, well, here's the process. About 95 to around 98% of our applications come in through the city's website. We also, in addition to having an online application system, we have a fillable PDF application, which you can fill out, download, and send to us if you're not comfortable sending your application through our server and firewalls. The applications are printed out the following business day. The pertinent information for logging and corresponding with applicants and scoring them on test is entered into a database we use, which is currently in the process of being replaced. And the staff here review the applications as quickly as they can. And we contact the applicants by United States mail. We also follow up with email and telephone calls. The thing, I know I sound like a broken record here because I've said it in previous meetings, but one of the things I pride myself on is that we are not like a private corporation or a private company. You will hear back from us. You can call 622-4308 Monday through Friday during normal business hours and ask to speak to the HR specialist assigned to the position or positions for which you apply. If you do not feel you've heard back from them as fast as you would have liked to, you can ask to speak with the manager. And we have a standing rule that you can escalate it up to me if you feel you're not getting a response as quickly as you want. The staff here review the applications. It's a merit system. We have minimum qualifications that candidates have to meet. I can tell you, even going back before the pandemic, because we were struggling to fill our vacancies, we've been taking a critical look at our minimum qualifications and lowering them. We've gone so far as to study our supervisory and managerial positions and say which positions really require or should require previous supervisory experience, which ones shouldn't because they're entry level. So over the years, as we've struggled, we've tried to strike just the right balance of what is the bare minimum needed to say you should perform successfully in the job and what's too much. That said, you know, we reach out to applicants. One of our biggest struggling points, I think, is getting applicants to respond. You know, if we require proof of some level of education or a license, applicants need to provide it. We also have worked with the police division to obtain police record checks from the PD so applicants don't have to pay for them. Sometimes we can get a completed record, sometimes we can't, but those are some of the progressive steps we've tried to take here to speed up the process and make it more efficient. At the end of the day, we're still dealing with, I think, the two biggest problems to get people to take jobs here. The residency requirement, it doesn't work for everybody. And over the years, I used to think that was the biggest stumbling block, but I believe it's compensation. We need to work on making our wages more competitive. That is my personal and professional perspective from 17 years of work, almost 17 years of working here. If there's anything else I can answer or say to try and be helpful and assist you, I'd be more than happy to.
No, it was just, and I don't know if you remember because you had came before one of our committees before. It was you and a young lady. I cannot remember her name. I'm horrible on names, so it's nothing personal. I just don't remember people's names, except for Alderwoman Tyus. I remember hers, but I don't remember the other people's names. But I was listening to you just now, and you were saying the struggles you all were having in hiring people. And so I don't think you remember the comment you made on why we couldn't get people to work for the city. And you made the comment that it's because it's a safety issue in our city. And so I just feel if we have that kind of mindset, we won't get people in our city because they'll feel like if you don't feel safe, they're not going to be safe. And so I just wanted to regurgitate that back to you because I never forgot that. That really hit me hard when you made that comment. And so I just feel as the personnel department, and I told Mr. Moten this, you all need to be the personnel department. You need to be personable with people. Because I'm telling you, people do not have a good taste in their mouth about our personnel department. And I know it's a struggle throughout the country on employees, but our personnel department, we've been struggling longer than other people on getting staff. And I know salary plays a role, but it's how we treat people plays a bigger role. So that's just something I want you all to think about. Mr. Moten did emphasize that he really was pushing about customer service. And so I'm glad that he's looking at that, because I think that takes care of everything. If you miss steps, people understand because you do have customer service. So just keep that in you all's hat, because I just really think that's hurting us also. Thank you.
May I make a comment, Alderwoman Tyus?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. I do remember our conversation on that subject, and I wanted to reiterate that I have told all of my managers from the very first staff meeting I had when I came on board that we're in the customer service business, and I take that very seriously. And so that has been a mantra that I think I mentioned to you. If you walk down the hall and ask anyone here what we're in business to do customer service for. Our customers are not only the persons who apply for work, but the people who work here also, who we interact with. And so our mantra is to be courteous and to offer customer service to everyone we encounter. Thank you, Alderwoman Boyd, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes.
No more questions. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. May I just make one comment, please? Is that okay with you, Chairwoman Theis? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to say that I fully acknowledge the past comment you brought up, Alderwoman Boyd, but I try not to paint in broad brushes or speak in absolutes. And whenever I've brought up perceptions of the city, I've tried to emphasize that it's one of a combination of factors. So I apologize if that one comment came across as hurtful or my sole biggest reason for stumbling with our hiring issues. It's a complicated issue. It's multifaceted. But what I've tried to communicate in the past is that there are a number of issues, and residency is one, pay is one, and people's perceptions of the city is another facet too. And it's not just maybe crime perceptions. It's yeah, you know, you can point at any organization and say there are problems with an image. And certainly we've been taking a critical look at the Department of Personnel and working on improving our image. So I hear what you're saying, but I just want to emphasize that I don't think our biggest obstacle to getting employees is crime. I think it's pay. I've, in the past year, been heavily involved in hiring for a number of positions and sections of the Department of Personnel. And the last position I struggled to fill here for Director Moten, I had 3 people off an eligible list that were highly qualified city residents. And when I told them the salary range of the position, they told me they were already above the maximum of the range or almost near the maximum of the range, and they weren't going to leave their current job for just a little bit more. So again, that's why I made my previous comment that I believe our biggest stumbling block right now is pay. You know, especially since the pandemic. I believe COVID was a game changer, and we had a number of people exit the workforce, and it's going to take a lot to bring them back. And a lot of employers we're competing with, they've just raised what they can pay to fill their jobs. So again, I just wanted to offer those comments for your consideration, and thank you for letting me add them. I appreciate it.
Thank you. No more questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. The next person is Alderman Bosley. Are you still here? I think he left. Alderman Oldenburg,
I'm gonna listen to them. We'll talk afterwards.
Alderman Ryan.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman. Just one quick question. I was working on something with your predecessor. Last year, we passed Board Bill 132, which was a decriminalization of marijuana bill. And in part, that bill called on the Director of Personnel to change marijuana testing policy on some jobs to allow people who have valid medical marijuana cards to present their medical marijuana card and then avoid any adverse employer actions based on a positive drug test for marijuana. Your predecessor was working on changing that rule when he had to step down. I don't know if that's something that your office has been looking at the moment or would have an interest in looking at moving forward. If so, I'd certainly be happy to work with y'all on that. I know that it is in your discretion per the charter, but the Board of Aldermen did see fit to pass legislation calling on the Director of Personnel to update this policy to come in line with the changes to the state constitution.
I have not directly worked on that issue since I've been on board the last 2 or 3 months, but I certainly would have an interest in taking a look at the issue. I apologize, but the things have been coming at a rapid pace.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I'm not adverse to discussing the matter at all, sir.
Perfect. No, I'll reach out and we can get the ball rolling on that discussion then. I appreciate it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Ryan. Wow. Okay, sorry. You're both handsome gentlemen, just not the same. Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. A lot of the questions I had were answered, but I did, since I have this opportunity to talk to you all. I have concerns about when people are not hired, what the follow-up is. Is there a dedicated person or someone there, you know, they get the letters, but is there a dedicated person? If not, can we try to institute or create something like this where a person can call and see why they didn't, because it might have just been a misunderstanding, or maybe they didn't know how to fill something out or follow up on something so that they can see, especially in the event that they were really interested in that position and wanted to reapply.
I know that the letter that we send out, it lists some contact information at the very bottom of the letter, how they can contact our office if they receive the letter that their application has been declined. But we are available, as Mr. Beckelman said, and gave the general number. If someone were to call and ask, then the relevant person would talk to them, or the person who is responsible for that particular job classification would speak with them. Brian, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon, Alderwoman. It's nice to see you again. I would just like to add the following. Ultimately, the Department of Personnel, we're kind of like the middlemen and women. We receive the applications, we review them, we correspond with the applicants, we test them, we put them on eligible for hire list. But at the end of the day, neither the Director of Personnel, myself, or anyone in his staff can compel an appointing authority in any of these civil service departments to hire anyone. There's even language in Article 18 of the Charter that basically says, hey, just because there's an eligible list, the director here cannot compel an appointing authority to use it or hire someone off a list. So one of the things we've done to try and bring a level of accountability and acknowledge these types of complaints in the past is we started a process of when referral forms are returned to the Department of Personnel with a code on it for the outcome of somebody's interview off a list with a department. We've added an additional addendum form where the department representative has to add the date, time, and method that they contacted that individual and how they informed them that they were not chosen for the job. And I'll just be honest with you, we've heard these complaints before. And the internal conversation has been, we correspond with you. We send you letters. We've got copies of the letters we can generate. Joe applicant, Jane applicant. We think the fundamental problem could be that the departments aren't following up with the candidates after they interview them off the list. And I can understand if I were an applicant and did an interview with a couple of departments and nobody called me back or sent me a letter saying, thanks, but no thanks, we're not interested, I'd be wondering what's going on here. So that's something we've implemented a few years back now. If you're coded, not selected, you know, you have to tell us the date and time and how you contacted that person, email, letter, phone call. So that's something we've tried to do to be proactive.
That's good, because what I know you know, because you've heard my story before, that I applied prior to this to be a 911 dispatcher and got a rejection letter and never got, you know, tried to reach out to personnel several times trying to figure out why, so that again I could have tried to reapply or do better. But so what I'm understanding now is that even if I would have reached or I would have got a return correspondence from you all were not the person I needed to talk to. I had never been interviewed, and I just want to make sure I'm clear for constituents that ask, that, you know, I've even been down to you all's office on behalf of my constituents to see what was going on with some specific ones who I will say got hired. So thank you, because the follow-up work, you know what I'm saying? So it makes a difference when you follow up. But in the end, so that we can be better, be able to explain to our constituents, if they get an immediate rejection letter from personnel, it's not you all. I'm not talking about somebody that was interviewed. I'm talking about somebody that never even made it past that, just got an immediate rejection letter. They don't try to correspond with you all. You're saying they try to communicate with the department, or do they still try to communicate with you all?
Well, if they're on an eligible for hire list and are sent from that list to interview with departments and don't get any follow-up, that's on the department. And it's not a bad idea to contact the director or me and let us know, so I can make a phone call to the department, or the director can, and we can say, hey, we hear this is a problem. What's going on? Let's work together, because we can't be doing these to our applicants. If it's a matter of getting a rejection letter, the typical, I'm sorry, you're not qualified for the job, that applicant, our phone number is on the letter, and so are instructions for appealing the elimination from the exam. And you can call here and ask to talk to the person whose name is on the letter. And I want to take this opportunity to reiterate once again, you know, if anyone feels they're not getting a proper, timely response from a member of our staff, all they need to do is call 622-4308 and ask to talk to Brian Beckelman, Deputy Director of Personnel. At that point, I will jump in and I will follow up with my staff. Sometimes I hear, well, yeah, I was off yesterday, you know, give me a chance to respond. Other times, if I hear, hey, it's been 2 days and I haven't heard back, what's going on here, I'll take care of it. You know, we're not a private company where you never hear back from us. You will get a response. And I don't like hearing that you're getting complaints and the rest of the board is getting complaints. So please give me a chance to earn my paycheck and step in and follow up and work with you to take care of our applicants. Not every person is going to meet the requirements for every job, but they'll meet requirements for some jobs here. And nobody wants to get those positions filled more than me or Director Moten and my exam staff. Let us earn our paycheck and work with the constituents to put them to work. That's the shared goal. That's what we want to do. And I couldn't be more sincere or honest. So thank you for letting me say that.
I hear it in your voice. Thank you so much. I will definitely be sharing this specific information, and thank you for all you're doing now, and the new interim director to help us and make sure that we're now here to support you all as we get these positions filled. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Alderwoman. It's my pleasure to be of service.
Thank you.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, Alderman Page.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I have one and only one, admittedly high level, pretty generic question that maybe should be better asked in personnel and administration. But since you're before us, I gotta let this question fly. almost every time I approach the following agencies for assistance with city services on behalf of my constituents. Those agencies are forestry, streets, they are refuse, and every time I go to them, it's almost like the first thing out of their mouth is how shorthanded they are. And I'm just curious, are you doing anything specific to hire to these agencies' complements to alleviate these resource shortages? Or are you having any particular challenges that you have not already brought before us early in your earlier conversations?
Well, Alderman Page, I will take the first shot at it, now that Mr. Beckelman speak. First, we did something unique. For us, we had a job fair at Friendly Temple on Martin Luther King, and we took out an ad to publicize that in the St. Louis American. We are looking for other avenues to do outreach, and certainly would welcome any suggestions in that area. I also contacted the Clergy Coalition and arranged for the distribution of the announcement of our job fair to their member congregations. And so that was the first step that we've made. But in terms of our looking to fill the vacancies, we're taking a hard look at cooperating everywhere where we can, every way we can, excuse me. I met with Chief Hayden and talked about jobs in the police department, and I've met and then talked to him about doing some cooperative work, and we cooperated with him and did a job fair in conjunction with them at the Enterprise Center, and we're looking for other opportunities to cooperate also. Mr. Beckelman?
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon, Alderman. It's nice to see you again. And I would say that from my perspective, the biggest struggle with the departments you mentioned, forestry, streets, and refuse, is that there's a large majority of the positions in those departments that provide extremely critical city services that require either a valid driver's license or a valid commercial driver's license. We all know refuse and recycling collection is a big problem. We know we're down a lot of drivers, but those positions require commercial driver's licenses. It's a requirement I would love to get rid of, but CDLs are a requirement of the Department of Transportation, and whether or not you need a CDL Class B or CDL Class A license depends on the total weight of the vehicle. So you've got those restrictions. We've had past conversations about maybe going to the state capitol and getting the legislation there, the powers that be at the state capitol to pass legislation that gives us an exemption with a rationale, something like this. If we stay off of DOT regulated highways and interstates and just drive the city streets, can we just operate the vehicles with proper training and a valid driver's license? I don't know if that would be successful, but the conversations have occurred. At the end of the day, all we can do in our positions here in personnel is run these ideas past the administration and the appointing authorities of those departments. We can't impose our ideas or suggestions on them. One thing we did before COVID, I want to say 2018 or 2019, we realized we were having such a difficult time getting seasonal grass cutters or utility workers that here's an example of what I mentioned earlier about lowering our MQs. We used to historically require that you be 18 years of age and have a valid driver's license to meet our hiring requirements for these utility worker positions. Basically, out of desperation, we lowered it to 16 years of age, no driver's license needed. It's a desirable requirement. That gets us a few more people on the list, kids looking for summer jobs. The problem is if the department, like these three departments, send us a requisition for hiring for these positions, and they say you must have a CDL or you must have a valid driver's license, we could have 10 high school kids on a list that meet our requirements. But if they didn't provide proof of a valid driver's license to us, or we check with the PD because we're trying to get a background check and they come back as not having a valid license, we can't refer those candidates for hire because the department's told us the driver's license is a requirement. And this is also the ugly reality, but I try to be a straight shooter and honest and straightforward and not sugarcoat things. Background checks and getting them are still a problem. Over the years, we've worked out an agreement with the police division. We have a dedicated Sunshine portal where we can run the names and SSNs and date of births of our applicants to try and get the police record from free, because we realize most of the time the applicant's not paying out of their own pocket for us. Unfortunately, we're still limited in the number of record checks we get. And part of that is because applicants have open warrants, or they're wanted, or we'll get a city police record check, but we won't get a county record check. We've had long and tough discussions in the past about just requiring a city background check. But for these seasonal positions where you don't have to live in the city, we've always come back to the train of thought that we better get that county record check if the candidate's living in St. Louis County. I also want to bring up the example that I saw in the news this morning. The McDonald's at Hampton and Manchester, 2 employees got in a fight and one shot the other, and PD had to show up and investigate the crime scene. This is part of the reason we get police record checks. We don't want to hire somebody with a violent past criminal history because, you know, we have the bandbox policy. We give people second chances. But if we get a police record check that shows somebody's got a history of high-risk criminal offenses, we might not want to put them in a park cutting grass. So these are just some of the realities we're dealing with, and I hope they shed some light on our struggles and help understand what
they do, and I sincerely appreciate it. However, I got to push back a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
certainly understand the CDL requirement, and it's my understanding that there's another whole issue there that you didn't bring up, and that is competition with other transportation companies that pay a lot more money. So I'm sure we're in competition even with the hiring bonuses that were offered a while back. I don't know if they make up that gap. So I understand that CDL based on vehicle weight, I don't know any way around that, nor would I recommend any. When it comes to streets, I've planned a meeting with the new director of streets for this week, and I'm bringing in my comprehensive street repair and paving plan. I'm also bringing in photo documentation of the most egregious street repair and paving needs in my ward to try to see if I can get some work prioritized and get it done this year. If I showed you the pictures that I have, you would be horrified, trust me. So I need to get this work done on behalf of my constituents. In the area of forestry, what we run into there is that this zone cutting program, trying to distribute the grass and weed cutting around the city, and I'm not so sure that's working very well. Sometimes we just have to be squeaky wheels to forestry to try to get some of the worst cases cut. But you know, my point in all of this is that these shortages, regardless of the reasons, are hurting delivery of services to our collective constituents, not just mine in the fabulous 5th Ward. And that's why I ask these questions. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just desperately seeking solutions on behalf of my constituents.
I hear you, Alderman, and I take what you're saying very personally because, you know, for about only 10 of my 50 years, I've spent my life in this city. I live next to a city park I love very much, and every day I walk my dogs in it. If the grass isn't cut and it gets over a foot tall, it's taller than those dogs I walk. I can tell you last month, my car was in the shop to get 2 bent rims repaired and 2 blown out tires replaced because I hit the wrong pothole and I don't have the best vision at night. So I have firsthand experience with knowing what it's like when the grass isn't cut more timely and when the streets aren't repaired like they should be. I'm glad you brought up the CDL driver shortage. I think it was the KMOV website last week. I read an article about how part of the problem with that employment field is getting worse because of retirement. More people are exiting that profession than younger employees coming in to replace them. And more employees are testing positive for marijuana. And I don't know what to do about that. I'm all for legalization of marijuana and responsible use. But when the Department of Transportation still holds it against people that are required to have a CDL, I don't know the workaround with that as well. So, but I just wanted to say this to communicate to you. I share your concerns and I hear you loud and clear, Alderman.
Also, if I may add, one of the challenges we've experienced is that some private companies will reimburse for CDL license acquisition and will provide time for people to take the exam and so on and so forth, which we're not able to do at this time. And that has been a challenge for us also. And I saw the article that Mr. Beckelman is referring to, where they talked about 100,000 truckers being vacancies, trucker vacancies. So that we were competing against the people who are trying to fill those vacancies as well as the vacancies we have in the city also, sir.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your comments. With that, Madam Vice Chair, I yield back.
All right, thank you so much. Gentlemen, I am the chair of streets. And so I am opposed to getting rid of the CDL. And I've been on streets since 1991, except for 2 years. So been on it for a long time. One of the reasons I'm opposed to it is because when people are not properly trained to drive those trucks, they do a lot of harm out in these alleys. And then when they turn it in, I've been on the city councilors because then they want to deny the people that the trucks are doing it. If you don't have people who know how to handle those trucks, they tear up people's garages, fences, what do you call the downspouts and everything else. So, and then in my own alley, I send Randy Brightonfield often. My family room is at the back and they don't know how to lower the trucks and lower the dumpsters. So they just throw them down and it shakes my house. So I do want people that are trained properly. I do have the question about why we can't reimburse for CDLs. Why aren't we able to do that now?
Well, I think, I understand from previous conversations with various people in streets that they've got the equipment and are willing to help train employees without CDLs to get it. Another example of lowering our minimum qualifications. We used to require the CDL B or A at the time of filing application. We've got so desperate over the past 3 or 4 years, we changed it to only requiring a valid CDL permit with the condition that you must get your Class B or A at completion of the working test period. As far as not being able to pay for getting a CDL, I can tell you the Department of Personnel does not have money to give applicants to complete it. I believe that payment would have to come out of the budget of the operating department, hiring and training the employee. But at the end of the day, Alderwoman, I think it's this simple. If we invest the money in a new hire getting the CDL, after they've got it, there's nothing keeping them here. Just kind of like the hiring incentive, what we like to call a bonus, but the Missouri Constitution prohibits bonuses for public sector employees, so we call it a incentive. At the end of the day, if they complete a 6-month or 11-month working test period, and then they're given permanent status and given their $3,000 incentive, there's nothing stopping them from saying, thank you, bye. I found another job that starts me at $12,000 more and see you later. Thanks for helping me get my license. I think that's the reality we're dealing with.
So I don't know if you know that the comprehensive study that everybody's got, when I was the chair of public employees, I encouraged and pushed for then Director Frank to do that, okay? And then encouraged and pushed for him to release it to me because he wanted to hold on to it as his work product, which he has no such thing. So I hear what you're saying. Here's what I think. If we're gonna make a commitment to picking up trash in the city, which to me I am, one, we have to pay people the proper amount. When I was the chair of public employees, we actually gave big raises to some of the people in the water department because they were so underpaid. We gotta match that. We gotta, we gotta put enough in your budget so that we can pay people to get the CDL, okay? We have to make a commitment. And we also, if we give bonuses, quote unquote, then we also have to put a law into place, much as that we have with the police, that say if you leave, you have to give it back. So all those things could be done. Not that it wouldn't take that much, and people would be, I don't think anybody on this committee would be opposed to it. The thing that we want to do is have our trash picked up. Tomorrow, I'm actually starting an inquiry into the refuse department because the new director doesn't know that she can't change services for one side of town to the other one because she's not a lawyer, and obviously she doesn't understand the Hancock Amendment, which she's in violation of what she's trying to do right now. So she is not in my good stead right now because she's put out things about picking up certain places twice a week, and then where I live once a week. That ain't gonna happen. And if I have to go get Eric Smith myself and sue the city, I will. What we want is good trash pickup, and that's all over the city. We don't want trash in our alleys, and we don't want people not picking up. And what is happened in a lot of North St. Louis wards is they will pick up and go every other dumpster, every 5 dumpsters. And one of the things that they had in the refuse department, which I'm going to bring up with her tomorrow, is they had an incentive that when you finish your route, you could go home. That's not a good incentive because that makes people hurry up and go through, and then they skip over things, okay? So I just think we got to take a hard look. And really, I'm just telling you by department. In this case, we're having a problem with refuse, and we got to then just say we're going to pay them that amount. Bite the bullet and do it. We got some extra money now. We got Rams money coming in. We pay them what they're due. We say, hey, you come over here, we're going to give you a bonus. We're going to help pay for your CDL. And by the way, you're going to sign this little document right here that says if you leave within a certain amount of time and you take our training and stuff, then we're going to make you pay that money back. Hopefully there won't be an incentive to do that if we pay them a proper amount of money. We are going to have to pay people. One of the things this pandemic has taught us is that everybody is valuable. We always think that the top of the spectrum is the thing that's valued. The CEO makes $25 million a year, nobody says anything. But if the janitor says that they want to make $20 an hour, they go, oh my God, a janitor wants to make $20 an hour, or a grocery store worker. But when we needed all these people, as we've gone through the pandemic, and as the pandemic comes back, we then need to know that every worker is valued. And that's how I treat all the workers here in the city of St. Louis, is to value them and thank them and appreciate that and to pay them. To that very point, Alderwoman Howard has a really good idea that I'm sending over to you. We got to start giving incentives. And one of the things that she brought up, and we didn't get it out of streets because I want to bring it over to public employees, is about parking downtown. I never thought of it, but she was so smart and brought it to our attentions. People got to park downtown and they don't make that much money. And they got a parking agreement out there in the airport. So I'm going to bring to you, not as part of taking it away from the parking division, but to the mayor and to personnel about making that part of our benefits. I said on the benefits committee, and I've gotten us in the past to pay for part of the dental payment that the employees had to pay. I sponsored something in which we end up the city paying for it. We got to look at offering maybe our employees, and I'm just telling you things like right now it costs a lot after you insure yourself. If you put your spouse and kids on it, maybe we pay a little bit more than that. Maybe we don't pay people as much as salary, but if you give people really good benefits, and I'm a child of a union, my mother was in the union, my father, my stepfather, all my families. If you give them good benefits, they don't want to leave. So we need to look at our whole package structure, salary and benefits again, and start committing to not just the top of the line, but to everybody. And even to say that I sponsored the bill in which we gave the police officers $6,000, but we didn't say percentage. This time we're giving 3%. So that's kind of unfair to the person who makes the least amount of money. If you're getting 3% and you make 100,000, that's a big difference if you're getting 3% and you make $15 an hour. So we got to be careful that we sponsor bills that's fair to all the lower segments of our pay, okay? And I think that you would be, if you guys came up with some things like that, I think you would be surprised how many of us would support it. Many of us on this committee come from working class people, okay, that have made it, afforded us an opportunity to get an education. Me, I'm especially proud that I've been able to go to Washington University School of Law. And but I come from, my mom was one of the first women that worked in Caterpillar Tractor Company in Decatur, Illinois. And she went when I was in the 5th grade, and women said, oh my God, she's going to the factory. But my mom helped bring in a good pay so that we had a good life. And so we want to make people proud to work for the city. We don't want people to be out there saying, oh, I live in the city and this and that and what, and we most certainly want our trash picked up. That's the fastest way to make a city look horrible if you got trash all over the place. So I think if you could come up with some suggestions for us, I think most of us would support them, okay? And we do want to pay our people the correct amount. I'm sorry, I see Alderwoman Howard's hand. Go ahead.
I just, I often tell people the benefits in the city are relatively good, but I think we need to be careful when we negotiate some of those benefits. Some of them don't apply to everybody. And I think, the health program is wonderful, and what we allow and how we educate our people with the health program. But I sometimes wonder if we don't go overboard in offering some of the amenities that maybe aren't applicable to our employees. And more specifically, I guess the fertility package, maybe that should be an option, not a requirement for everybody to participate in. I don't know if that's even feasible, but I don't know what the average age of our employees is, but I suspect as I look around the city, most of them are, at the higher end of the age bracket. But it would be interesting to survey that and see what people really want as part of their benefit package. And maybe, when we're dealing with younger people, we have a retirement system. Maybe there's some negotiation with a retirement system that may be where the employee puts into that system. And maybe that would afford some salary increases that we can't give because we're paying for the retirement. So I think maybe having the employees at the table might do well to kind of decide how we can increase, and as the Alderwoman from the first said, increase the pay at the lowest levels, because we've got people that are getting they're going to food pantries and they're getting rental assistance. And that to me is just not how we want to treat our people. It just doesn't bode well for our good city.
May I respond to a comment you made a little earlier?
Yes, please.
We are, as part of our negotiations with the carpenters, they represent the correctional officers, and we're taking a look at offering free parking for some of their employees on the afternoon and evening shifts. How much further we'll be able to go with that, I don't know, but I just wanted to let you know that we recognize that as an issue. I hear that every day from my secretary, who talks about the parking and the cost of parking, the working downtown.
Why just the afternoon and the evening? Why not the day?
Well, that's as far as we can go with the budgetary constraints that we have right now. But we're looking at seeing what we can do beyond that. But I can't give you an answer right now. I don't know.
Because is it cheaper, or is it the same to park during the day as it is in the afternoon or the evening? Do you know that?
Well, one of the challenges we have is special events, and the parking we do not control. That's out of the treasurer's office, as you well know.
I'm a parking commissioner.
Yes, ma'am. So we want to respect their autonomy in that regard, but special events such as the hockey games, the baseball games do complicate the matter somewhat.
I understand. So, and what I'm going to say, and I know what you're saying, you're limited, but I'm saying that you have to let us know. You have to push the envelope, say, well, this is what we can do, but here's our wish list that if we could do more, and then you go find you 15 friends over here at the Board of Aldermen who will support that. You don't just say, oh, we need it and keep it to yourself. We don't know what you need. I never thought of this until Alderwoman Howard brought this up before my committee last time. And I told her then it was such a good idea, but she was looking at it for us to give free parking through the parking commission. And I think it ought to be a benefit that we add something that we can say to all people who work downtown, day, evening, or night, and we put some more money. Again, you got to put your money where your mouth is when you're paying people, to me, okay? And just to Alderwoman Howard's thing about the fertility, that came about because they, when we got our little benefits package on benefits team, they had all these things for blue pills and other pills for men. And so I asked the question, what do you have for women? And they had none. So then they rushed to put something in there. I don't think everybody needs it for every age group. So maybe you let certain people pick, say, I need this benefit, but I don't need this benefit. So we kind of have a cherry pick kind of thing, but it was put in for equality because I questioned, it was a lot of money that we spent on the blue and other pills, okay? And absolutely nothing was on the other side. So it was a big laugh that we had. The guy who came to present it to us turned red in the face when I asked that, but it really wasn't fair. So that's what it is. But I didn't think everybody needed it. Of course, me and you are not planning on having children, okay? But maybe for younger people come in, they may have a problem. They need fertility things. And maybe younger men don't need the blue pill, but maybe older people do. So maybe if we have some kind of thing where we could go through and pick some of our benefits and they're equal in weight or pretty equal in weight, we could do it that way. But my first, I think, go back to you is, you got to let us know when you need these things or what things you think will make it better, because all of us are saying the same thing, is that we want to have an adequate number of employees to get our jobs done. All citizens want trash picked up across the city. If you got vacant buildings, you want those gone. You want the streets cleaned. You want demolition or buildings that are stabilized. You want grass cut. Oh my God, you want grass cut. And you want to feel safe in your city and proud of your city. So we tend to put our chest out because we build stadiums and things like that. But the average person wants just the same thing. And so if you can help us get more drivers and more forestry workers, and you have suggestions, we're not going to say we're going to get it this time, but we got people who are on the Ways and Means. We got 15 aldermen and actually 20 aldermen, a variety of mayors veto. Okay, so there's ways to get things, but you got to let us know, because we just know we're frustrated because we don't have it. But you are the people can give recommendations to us, and then we want to work with the legislative branch wants to work with the mayor's administration and with the comptroller and with everybody we can to make sure we get what we need so we can serve the citizens in our city. Okay.
Thank you very much. I heard you, Alderwoman.
And it doesn't mean you just come to us and said, hey, you're the chair of refuse. This is what we need from you. I'm going to go to the mayor's office and say, excuse me, executive branch, we need to get trash picked up. And if this is the way we can best do it, then we're looking at how to do it. Okay. I don't know that if you don't tell me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the offer and for the comments. Thank you very much.
Okay. Alderwoman Boyd, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I heard you, I don't know which one it was. You had talked about the bonus for refuge. And I was struggle with that from day one, because to me, I just feel that was discriminatory across the board. I'm sorry, because, they said they give, first of all, they tricked you all. That's the first thing, because all these people ran, they left forestry, they left parks, they ran over the refuge, and guess what? They quit. They got their money and they left. And so my question is, if you're going to do it, and I say this in Alderwoman Howard and Alderwoman Tyus will tell you, I say this all the time. If we're going to do something, we do it across the board. be fair to everybody, because just like you think refuge is important, forestry think they're important, parks think they're important, all these other departments think they're important. And that was a slap in the face for those departments, because you know what they did? Just like Alderwoman Taya said, my phone started blowing up. Park said, we losing all the people we have because they going to refuge. Them now refuge short and park short. So it wasn't a win-win. So I think the benefit package is the best way we can start getting people and doing a lot of additives to our benefits to let people know we understand your situation and this is how we're going to help you. So it's just a comment, that's all.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with your comments, Alderwoman. Money talks. You know, I'm here because I believe in public service. And I've done corporate HR, and I've done civil service HR at St. Louis County, and here for almost 17 years. If I cared about money, I'd be working in the private sector. I'm here because I love my job and because I believe in public service. And I tell people all the time, because I'm an old recruiter, you can complain about the city all you want. Why don't you come here and join us and be a part of the transformative change of making it a better place to work and live? But at the end of the day, if we want to bring people here and fill those, 1,250 vacancies, we're going to have to find the money to pay people more. And benefits are a major part of that. I don't need any pills. I'm glad I get a free eye exam once a year, but I sure could use help with my next pair of glasses. So if we had some kind of flexibility, and this is what I love about the opportunity of being here with you all today. I want to overcome with Director Moten and the next Director of Personnel, the image that personnel is cloak and dagger and secretive. We are here to work together. We need to come up with creative solutions and brainstorm and all work together. And we want to be a part of that transformative change. I don't know what there are no easy answers. These are complicated, multifaceted problems, and you can't look at them in a vacuum. They're all interrelated. But if we all work together, we've got a lot of smart people in this meeting and we can figure it out. Thank you.
One more question. Do you all have any, because I'm thinking from the private sector where I came from, when we had personnel issues about hiring and stuff, we had employees come in. Do you all bring any employees to the table to start brainstorming with them, to ask them what they want? Because if I was an employee, I have a problem with you telling me what's best for me and never ask me what I was looking for. Or what I would say, what are your weaknesses you see for working for the city, or what's the strengths? Do you all have some kind of group that you all have created with employees?
We don't have an organized program at this time. I'll ask Mr. Beckelman to respond before I came if there's anything like that in the past, but I'm not aware of any such program right now, ma'am.
Yeah, Alderwoman, I'm not aware of any kind of survey initiative. I know there was a time a former director of personnel and former mayor went from department to department. I think it's when we last went from open ranges and the compensation ordinance to the current steps we have here, and that there were kind of some town halls with the departments, but that's something that I think would be a great idea. I could speak with Director Moten about it. We could work together, or maybe with the next director, because he's going to be part of the transition. And see if there's some kind of town hall we can do from department to department where we could collect feedback. I know my thoughts are it would be beneficial if the appointing authorities started within their own departments and brought their collective findings to us so we could work on it with department leadership. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to come across as a buck passer, but the director and myself and members of our team can sit there and do town halls and talk to employees and listen to their concerns. And we could write an analysis and present it to each department appointing authority. But at the end of the day, we need those department leaders to work with us to try and bring about the transformative changes that would keep the workforce in each department happy. Some of these issues are going to be universal, whether you work at the airport or forestry or streets or personnel, we're all going to have the same problems. We all want better benefits and pay. But some of them, in my experience, will come down to departmental culture and leadership, which we can do on-site training. We can send members of the training section of personnel there and do training all day long. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel your appointing authority or your manager is treating you with appreciation and respect, you're not going to want to stick around and work there. And you'll either find a job in a different city department where you feel appreciated, or leave for outside the city where you'll feel appreciated or make more money. So those are just my thoughts, but I think it's an excellent idea and it's something we can do. It'll take time and a coordinated, organized effort, but we can definitely do that.
I'll be willing to work with you if you all wanted some help. I know I'm putting my foot in my mouth, but I'm just saying.
No.
I'll be willing to work, because I just think we need to quit talking and doing it. And I just think we need to work with these employees and try to help them to sustain who we have, build their morale up, and get other people in.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. You know, we can't be on two separate islands. We both need each other. The board and personnel need each other, just like personnel needs every other city department that we service. And I think this would be a great opportunity to work together to solve a common goal, which is a legitimate problem in affecting city services. So thank you.
That's all I have. I hope I wasn't out of line, Madam Chair.
No, you were not. And I wanted to your point, when I was the chair of public employees, I had an evening meeting and I invited employees to come into the meeting. The water department came in mass and they brought documentation about their salaries. This is how they got a raise. They came with valid complaints in writing. I was impressed. And I then met with them over at McConnell's, over at Shaw and Kings Highway. And through and then we did just a small little survey of what people made. And they were so underpaid. Like I said, the former director, Franks, and I worked together, and a lot of them got substantial increases in money. But they came to that hearing that I had that evening, and they came ready to not just complain, but to document. And they brought their own comparisons of what they made at American Water or whatever. And that was very helpful. They liked their jobs and wanted to do it, but was very underpaid. So I like the idea of having meetings with different departments and talking to them about what's going on. We're having a crisis at Refuse because a lot of people feel under pressure, and I do agree with what they're saying. And so I'm going to be going out to Refuse, and I'm going to be meeting with the workers because I don't think they feel valued. And this has been a long-term problem, but it's really exacerbated with this last year or so. And we cannot afford. We've had 3 excellent workers quit. Mr. Will Young, my heart hurts because every time I called him and said, I got a problem in an alley, he would clean the alley so well. And Alderman Vaccaro and Alderwoman Boyd can tell you this, that people would send pictures and say, oh my God, who did this? He's gone now. I don't like that Randy Brightonfield sat there for 3 years and we kept it open, which you guys are going to hear from me because there's nothing that allowed us to do what we did. And I think that I encouraged him. I want you to know this. I encouraged him to file a lawsuit against this city because I think that what they did to him was just absolutely horrible. The current person who's sitting there, when he went to the mayor's office, was not the refuse commissioner. Nick Young was. He was something else. And then we left that position open for 3 years and slid somebody in there. And I am just appalled. There's nothing you ever asked Randy Brightonfield for that he didn't do. And almost every alderman, we all thought that he was our personal person. I first saw his face when I had a hearing early last year when I became the chair of streets, and I had never seen Randy's face. All I know is that if I asked Randy to do something, it was a can do, get it done. And then Alderwoman Boyd said, well, I thought he was mine. Okay, Alderwoman Howard, all these people. So that is a miscarriage of justice, and that he does not have that position. And I'm telling you that right now. And so you are going to be hearing from me, because somebody has a mistaken notion that you could just move somebody out the mayor's office, leave a position open for 3 years and stick somebody in there. And that's not right. And that needs to be investigated. And I CC'd you all when I talked about it, but I'm going to get it more hands-on and have a conversation, because that's not right. We also just lost another good foreman. That they have what you said, Mr. Beckerman, about feeling appreciated. When you lose people that's been there for a long time and was willing to work for a lot less pay than they could have got, and then they're like, I'm out of here. You got to look at that culture that's there and understand that you can't just put your thumb on some people and treat them badly. So some people have this idea of, because I've tried to get people to sign up to go and be a refuse worker or drive the trucks, and they'll say, I'm not going to drive a trash truck. And so I tell them, you know what? I have a law degree from Washington University. If I need to feed my family, I will drive a trash truck. I will learn how to do it, and I will do it. That's because that's the generation I grew up in. Plus, it's not the Fred Sanford thing that you're looking at. These are nice vehicles. You drive them, you drive up and down the alleys, and then you go home. It's not like you're over the road and you don't get to see your family. We have benefits, which we can sweeten the pot, but it's not a bad job. And I think that we want to encourage people to be there, and I don't want to see workers leaving. That is not the right thing to do. And I'm appalled at that. I like your statement about the culture, because that does make a difference for some people. Alderwoman Howard, did you have something to say? I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, I just ditto those remarks. And if we're going to be given hiring bonuses, there's a lot of departments that need people. I understand, as was said before, our city, if we don't have trash pickup, it really makes our city look bad. And I understand the critical shortage we have there, but at the same time, you can't do one section and not do others. You're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And I think we really need to look at how we re-envision the salary schedule and salaries with our employees. If we can't hire them, we need to reconfigure how we're paying people and make pay a priority. I know it right now is the biggest part of the budget, but at the same time, are we top heavy with people being paid at the top, and we're not remunerating the entry level positions enough to get those people? We need to look at the structure of the pay and how we recruit people and make sure that we can recruit people at a decent wage. So I would encourage Mr. Moten and Mr. Beckelmeyer to look at that and see if we can't do something to get people in, instead of, like was said, 3% of 100,000 is a lot more money than 3% of 30,000. So we need to look at that. Thank you. That's all. I appreciate you listening today, and hopefully we can be partners going forward and resolve some of these issues. Thank you.
Then I have one last thing that I've been floating around. Traffic is speeding up and down city streets is deplorable. It used to be Natural Bridge was where everybody got killed, but now West Florissant has been named one of the worst cities, one of the worst streets for speeding in the state. I had made a suggestion when, and I actually put it in writing to Director Dan Isom and Heather about could we, and maybe just to the director and the police chief, maybe, that could we hire part-time people who have been former police officers, and I don't care, we could waive the residency so they could be in the city or the county, and bring them back for a traffic patrol. Because right now, we don't see anybody on traffic, and it's hard. I mean, I live 2 houses from Kings Highway, and the people drive so fast, they're shaking my streets. We're having to do all kind of traffic calming. We're having to spend a lot of money on speed humps on the side residential streets. But I would love to look at the police chief, this was a year ago, I first brought it up, and a year ago in March, he was at a Zoom meeting with my community. And he liked the idea, and Director Isom liked the idea, but I think we had some personnel humps. So I'm going to send you in writing, because if we could just hire these people strictly only, not for any other thing except for traffic, and they would be part-time, and we could put a complete traffic patrol all across the city with part-time people, because a lot of times if you've retired, you do not want to work full-time and you can only make so much money, but who knows how many people we would get, and then we wouldn't have to pull our full-time police officers away from things to do traffic. So I just wanted to before Director Frank left, he was kind of starting to look at that. And I just want to throw that out as an idea of how we could increase our police presence on our city streets, so we would not have these people driving way above the law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Vice Chairwoman, Alderwoman Tyus, we do have the flexibility to hire retirees on a per performance hourly basis. So the mechanisms are already in place to bring back a retiree to work part-time for an hourly rate of pay. We'd have to, I think, work with the police division. Maybe there's a way we could contact recent retirees. The only snag I can think of is, there is a mandatory retirement age for police officers. So, but ideally.
Is that a state law or is that our law?
That is a state law tied to post certification,
Okay.
I believe.
Right.
And then, but yeah, barring the age ceiling that requires mandatory retirement, we're going to have to do some kind of coordinated marketing or PR campaign with the police division to reach out to these former employees and see if we can interest them in coming back as public servants. I think it's an excellent idea. We just, like I tried to say earlier, work together as a group to figure out a strategy and implement it, and try to work together to solve the problem. I also personally would like to just say, I hear your comments about the Deputy Refuse Commissioner. I remember the last exam for Commissioner of Refuse and the testing process and being involved in establishing that eligible list. And to be an HR professional that develops a list for a job like that and not see it get used, you just kind of sit back and go, okay, what'd I do that for? So I hear your comments loud and clear, and I understand where you're coming from, and I should probably stop right there.
And I just want you to know, Randy's not my personal friend or anything. He's just a person that does the job. And to me, we support people who do the job. We don't treat them like that. That is the wrong way to treat them, okay? And so, and this is not my first time. Jamie Wilson will tell you I've been at him for a year, like, what is going on? Why are you treating him like this? I just think that is wrong, okay? So, and back to the traffic thing. Also, how would this certification of sheriffs go into this now? And I've already kind of approached the sheriff about, well, if they're going to be certified, could we use them as traffic in the traffic division? Because I'm looking at wherever we could get people, so we could have a traffic division in our city. I know they used to have women doing tickets when they first let women become police officers. Their jobs was to do tickets. So I'm not trying to demean this, because to me, somebody's going to get killed with the rate of speed that these young people are. They run traffic lights, traffic signals, stop signs, they race. I think this morning they had an accident at Shreve and I-70. Almost always someplace in my ward, there's an accident going on, if not a fatality. So do you know anything about the sheriff's certification? And if we could, because they're saying they could patrol the streets, might that also be a way that we bring some more traffic people in?
Honestly, Alderwoman, I don't want to speak out of turn. The sheriff's deputies are not civil service employees. I really have no knowledge about the post-certification process they would go for to qualify to carry a city firearm and patrol city streets. But that would be a larger discussion with the leadership in public safety that I know I would be happy to participate in any way, because I share everyone in this meeting's goal of making the city a safer place to live and drive. I think any of us that live in the city and have for a while now, myself not excluded, know when the light turns green, you just don't drive if you're the first car. You wait for the 2 or 3 or 4 cars that are blowing the red
Exactly.
light to go by, so you're not hit.
Exactly.
And it's a thing I see daily driving. And it's not a city county issue, it's everywhere, but we all, where we live in this city and where we drive every day to work and do recreational activities, we all can name those intersections where you wait a few seconds after that light turns green. So anything I can do with my director and the staff here to help public safety and sit down with Sheriff Betts and see what we can do. I mean, just say the word.
Okay. And is there anything that we left out? Like, is there something like about COVID-19 or anything like that that we left out, a question that's affecting hiring or anything at all that you think that we might have left out in this discussion?
Oh, I've got
Okay, you don't have to answer that then.
I probably talk too much, but I will say this. Having a close relative that loves teleworking, hated it at first, but now loves it, who was worried about her job security and applied for city positions and got on lists and was offered a job and turned it down because it would have been a $10,000 or more cut in pay, and there were no teleworking options. I think we need to see what we can do about teleworking, not just because of a pandemic, but on a permanent basis. We are St. Louis City government. When you need a building permit from the building division, you don't want to be in front of a computer clicking a mouse to get your permit. You want to come into City Hall and walk out with your permit. You want to talk to somebody in personnel, you need to be able to show up if you need personnel's assistance. We have to have people here at the office and at the counter to service the customers internally and externally. But we need to come up with creative solutions for people that want to telework. That's something I think that's very big with Generation Y and Z. They like working with home. I just saw a story a couple of weeks ago on how more millennials and Gen Z want to work at home because they like being with their pets. I realize you can't bring your dog or cat to the office here in City Hall or Carnahan, and it doesn't have to be a daily thing. If we could work together collectively to find a work-life balance that will get some of the jobs filled, like, hey, we'll let you do, if we're fully staffed and can do it, 4 10-hour work days, and then you get that 5th day off. And yeah, not everybody's going to get a 3-day weekend, but you can have Tuesday and Saturday and Sunday off, or take a break in the middle of the week. Maybe you can telework 1 day a week or every other day. But we need the appointing authorities to work with us together as a group to come up with what's going to work for their department and meet the citizens' needs and get the job done. I think part of that is going to be filling the vacancies, but maybe if we can start thinking outside of the box and come up with solutions like this that are realistic and can be done sustainably, then that'll help us fill the vacancies, because we'll have more people willing to take jobs here, because you're not tied to a desk Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So, the willpower is here on our end. We want to get the jobs filled. We want employee satisfaction so people don't leave. But we got to work together as a group and start having these conversations that we weren't having before. But since you mentioned the pandemic and COVID, yeah, teleworking's been a game changer.
Okay.
That, and, again, I come back to pay. We've all seen the compensation study. It said our pay was this far behind. Well, with COVID, it's probably this far behind. Everybody's paying more because there are less people willing to take jobs. So pay and work-life balance, better benefits, getting people to take the jobs because we can be more competitive with the private sector. those are going to have to be the problems we work together to tackle if we're going to get people to take the jobs and stick around. I think the pension is great for people my age. I expect to be working another 15 years at least. So I'm not going anywhere because I want my pension, and I've been paying into it for over 16 years. A millennial or a kid right out of college that could take an entry-level job here, they're going to stick around a couple of years unless we can really entice them to stay. And I think part of this problem too is going to be PR and marketing. We need to work together and put serious money into marketing what benefits we offer. We've got fitness centers. We're adding more fitness centers. Putting out there that you can come to work early, stay late, or take your hour lunch break and work out with weights or get on a treadmill or take a wellness class. Maybe if we put more time and money into advertising those benefits, it might get younger people who wouldn't consider us because they think we're a dinosaur to jump on board. And after they work here a year or two, maybe they'll get comfortable and think, I like this. And then maybe after 3 or 4 years, if we develop retention increases, if John Understall here works with us to say, you know, you might not stick around 5 years for a pension, so let's give you a retention increase and bump your pay up significantly after 3 years, you'll think about sticking around for 5 years until you're vested in the pension system. And after that, you know, but we've got to come up with those carrots and implement them in order to get people to stay, let alone file their application and walk through the door and take the job. That's just my 2 cents worth.
And I agree. And I think we also have something where we got loan forgiveness. I was working with Director Frank a couple of years ago, and that's for young people and those kind of things. So I totally agree.
Alderwoman, thank you. May I interject? From my personal experience, for years and years and years, I tried to get student loan forgiveness and was denied. Well, Biden changed the requirements. I started getting phone calls and mail. I finally stopped ignoring the calls and mail and I went through it. The application was denied. Then I got another letter. Well, try this. I went down to Mr. Moten's office about a month ago in shock, and he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing's wrong. They forgave my student loans. I still owed over $30,000 on my undergraduate and my master's degree. It was forgiven. Then a couple of days later, I told them about the refund checks I got. So
and they said, give us our taxes.
right. So I'm living proof of how that can happen for you. And right. I've been preaching to every Department of Personnel employee with a student loan, hey, you really need to look into the revised program. So yes, I will be your spokesperson and go out to all the city departments and say, it worked for me, it can work for you. So let's put some time and energy into advertising that.
Right. Right. In fact, I'll send you, because Mr. Frank and I, we had put a brochure together a couple of years ago. So I'll send all that stuff that we were working on. You might have been on that, CC'd on that, but it's been a while. So I'll just send you what we were working on, because I always believed in that program. Okay. You get young people because they come with these big student loans, and anything you could do to help forgive that, you got some young, energetic people.
We have a city employee I work closely with in another department, and the director and I think very highly of. And I was told one of the reasons they turned down an outside job offer recently was because they're in the student loan forgiveness program and they'd be on the hook for $150,000 in student loans if they left now.
Right.
So this is something that I think if more employees knew about it, it could help with our retention efforts.
I have a question.
Alderwoman Howard, go ahead.
Is the student loan forgiveness due to the fact you're working in public service?
Yes, it's the PSLF, the Public Student Loan Forgiveness Program.
I didn't know they did that for city work, for city workers. I know they did it for people that work in the school systems, but that's a wonderful, that needs to get out there, because I'm sure we have people that would take advantage of that. That's fantastic. Yeah. It's not just a temporary thing that was initiated in this current presidential administration. It's been, I didn't know it was good in the city though, for city employees. That's great.
Okay, we're getting to my limit here. I've had streets this morning and and then I got a 4 o'clock, so I got another meeting to go to. So if there's not anything else that somebody really needs to bring up, I think this is a good place to stop. We're gonna get some information that you're gonna send over to our clerks, that they're gonna make sure that everybody on the committee gets it. Alderwoman Howard, are you still got another question? Your hand's up? Okay. We're gonna make sure we get that information you're gonna send over. And then this is good to have conversations like this sometime, a working committee. So I really appreciate you, both of you, all you gentlemen coming, and Ms. Taylor, I don't know if you're still here. Thank you for coming. And the members of the committee, thank you so much. And if we don't have anything pressing, Alderwoman Boyd?
Just remember, I reiterate, if you all need my help, I'll help with those committee groups to try to get a clearer understanding so we can put some benefit package together.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do a move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the Public Safety Committee meeting.
Second.
Previous row.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, okay. We're going to let Carol Howard stay here. Alderwoman Howard is staying. We're all leaving, okay?
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.